इस वीडियो में हम इंडाइसिस का लेसन कवर करेंगे। इंडाइसिस के कुछ एग्जांपल्स है, जैसे जब हम नंबर्स ऐसे लिखते हैं 2 raised to 3 या 4 raised to 5, these are called as indices. So this number 2 raised to 3 यानी we are multiplying 2 3 times, 2 into 2 into 2. Similarly 4 raised to 5 यानी 4 हम 5 बार मल्टीप्लाई करेंगे, 4 into 4 into 4 5 times, not 4 into 5. That's incorrect. Okay. अब इंडाइसिस के कुछ टर्म्स देखते हैं। Here 2 is called as the base, 3 is called as index, or it is also called as exponent. Now नंबर्स जब हम इंडेक्स फॉर्म में लिखते हैं उसको कहते हैं इंडेक्स फॉर्म ऑफ मल्टीप्लिकेशन. So instead of writing 4 into 4 5 times, you write 4 raised to 5. That is called as index form of multiplication. Now something to remember that indices ठीक से cover करना, because the same is going to be there in 8th, 9th and 10th standard. ये basics है. Once the basics are clear, it will be pretty easy in the higher standards. Okay. So when we write 2 raised to 3, it is also called as 2 raised to the power of 3. The number on the index place is called as the power. Or you can also say it as 2 raised to 3. Or you can also call it as third power of 2. Let's see how to solve these sums. So 2 raised to 3 is 2 into 2 into 2. The value is 8. So the answer that you get is called as the value of that index. So another example, let's take any number. So example 5. Now 5 raised to 1 is equal to 5 because you're just multiplying once. Or let's say any number m raised to 1. So again, m raised to 1 is going to be m. So the base can be any number. Anything raised to 1 is always going to be that base number. Let's look at other examples. So minus 5 upon 3 raised to 3. This is equal to again minus whatever is the base. So base is minus 5 upon 3. So you just multiply the base 3 times because your power is 3. And then to solve it, you just multiply the numerator and the denominator. Now, what is the sign of the value that you get in the end? It's going to be minus into minus plus, and plus into minus is going to be minus. Okay, so you get minus 125 upon multiply 3 times, so you get 27. So that's your value. Now, let's look at how multiplication works in case of indices. So let's take this example. 2 raised to 2 into 2 raised to 3. So in case of multiplication, what do we do is the base is the same 2 and we add the indices. So it will be 2 plus 3. So that will give us 2 raised to 5. Okay. So always remember, in case of multiplication, you need to add the indices. So 2 raised to 5 is nothing but multiply 2 5 times. So if we have to consider the general form, let's take some number m raised to n into, that is multiplication, m raised to a. Now since the base m is the same, it will be m raised to n plus a. Always remember that the base has to be the same. One more example, 3 into 3 raised to 5. Okay, so what does that mean? When you don't have an index, by default it is 1. So the answer here would be 3 raised to 1 plus 5. That gives you 3 raised to 6. One more example with a negative number. Here the base minus 2 upon 5 is common. Okay, so minus 2 upon 5 raised to 2 multiplied by the same base raised to 3. So the method still remains the same. You have minus 2 upon 5, the whole raised to 2 plus 3. In the next example, we are taking any common number, let's say a. So a upon 5 raised to 3 into the same base, that is a upon 5 raised to 2. That will give us a upon 5 raised to 3 plus 2, that is 5. Now let's check a few examples with division. Okay, here you have 2 raised to 5 upon 2 raised to 3. In case of division, you need to subtract the indices. The base 2 is the same. In multiplication, you add the indices, but in division, you have to subtract. So here you will get 2 raised to, the first index in the numerator is 5 and denominator is 3. So you do 2 raised to 5 minus 3. That will give us 2 raised to 2. Another example with a negative number, minus 5 raised to 5 divided by minus 5 raised to 3. Again, it's the same, minus 5 raised to 5 minus 3. Subtract the indices because the sign is division. So you can do the same examples along with me so that you get the practice. Now, in case of indices, an important point to remember is any number raised to 0, the answer is always 1. So, अगर हम यहाँ पे example m लेते हैं, any number m raised to 0 is going to be 1. Let's take 2. 2 raised to 0 is 1. 5 raised to 0 is 1. If we take a fraction 2 upon 5, that raised to 0 is 1. So, any number raised to 0 is 1. One more example where you have 2 raised to 5 divided by 2 raised to 5. So, it will be 2 raised to 5 minus 5 because it's division. So, again you get 2 raised to 0 which is equal to 1. Now, let's look at examples with negative index. So, let's consider 5 raised to minus 2. So, here to make the index positive, you need to take the inverse. So, 5 is nothing but 5 upon 1. The inverse of that is 1 upon 5. So, you get the answer as 1 upon 5 raised to 2, or you can also write it 1 upon 5 the whole raised to 2. So, if we consider in general, you have some number b raised to minus m, that's the index. So, the answer would be 1 upon b raised to m, because you just need to take the inverse of the number. Then your index becomes positive. Now, let's look at what is multiplicative inverse. Let's take this example. A raised to minus m will be 1 upon a raised to m. Similarly, a raised to minus 1 will be 1 upon a raised to 1. So let's take a number a. If we multiply a with its reciprocal 1 upon a, the answer that we get is going to be 1. So therefore, let's again replace 1 upon a. So a, will write it as a. Now we know that 1 upon a in index form is a raised to minus 1. So that the answer that we get is 1. So therefore, a raised to minus 1 is called the multiplicative inverse of a. So whenever you multiply the number with its multiplicative inverse, the answer is always going to be 1. A few more examples. 2 raised to minus 3 is going to be 1 upon 2 raised to 3. So 1 upon 2 raised to 3 is a multiplicative inverse of 2 raised to minus 3. Now if we have 5 upon 2 raised to minus 1. Now how do we make it positive? We take 1 upon whatever is the base. So base here is 5 upon 2. So it will be 1 upon 5 upon 2 raised to 1. Okay. Now how do we solve this? When you want to get the denominator into the numerator, you just take the reciprocal of the fraction. So it is going to be 1 into 2 raised to 5. That gives you 2 upon 5 raised to 1. So we know that 2 upon 5 is the multiplicative inverse of 5 upon 2 raised to minus 1. Solve such type of sums directly as well. So whenever we have a fraction 5 upon 2, okay, and raised to minus 1, the multiplicative inverse would be just the inverse of that number. So 5 upon 2 becomes 2 upon 5. 2 raised to minus 3, the denominator is actually 1, but by default, since it is 1, we don't write it. So 2 upon 1 becomes 1 upon 2. So 1 upon 2, the whole raised to 3. Now let's solve a few sums. Question is solved. You need to solve whatever the question is and then find the answer. So minus 2 upon 3 is actually minus 2 multiplied 3 times. Now just be careful of the sign. You have minus into minus plus, and plus into minus is minus. So the answer is going to be minus 8. Now if you have minus 2 raised to 2, it will be minus 2 2 times. So that gives you minus into minus plus, and the answer is plus 4. So by default you don't write plus, so it's just 4. So what we need to remember is, if the negative number is raised to, the index is an odd number. Okay, so here we have 3 as an odd number and the base is negative, then the answer is always going to be negative. And if the index is an even number, your answer is always going to be positive. Okay? The general form, if you have minus 1 raised to m, you don't know whether m is even or odd. So your answer is going to be minus 1 if m, that is the index, is odd, and your answer is 1 if m is even. Now let's look at examples when the question given is simplified. In the first example, it is a raised to 6 divided by a raised to 4. It is division, so you have to subtract the indices. So it's a raised to 6 minus 4, that will give you a raised to 2, and you just leave it as it. Second is m raised to 5 divided by m raised to 8. This is division again, so you have m raised to 5 minus 8, you get m raised to minus 3, the sign of the greater number 8. X raised to 10 divided by x raised to 10, you get 10 minus 10, that is 0. Now anything raised to 0 is always 1. When the question is find the value of, you need to actually multiply the actual number depending on whatever the index is and find the final answer. Now if you have 7 raised to 5 divided by 7 raised to 3, that will give you 5 minus 3, which is equal to 7 raised to 2. So 7 sevens are 49. Next one. 4 raised to 7 divided by 4 raised to 5. So again you have to subtract the index. So you have 4 raised to 2, which is equal to 4 4s are 16.